The kitchen light hums over a scatter of envelopes, a coffee cup gone cold, and a phone that keeps lighting up with numbers you don't feel ready to answer. He, or she, sits at the table, shoulders tight, fingers tracing the edge of a bill as if it were a riddle. Please, they whisper into the quiet, more to the ceiling than to anyone. Universe, just one miracle. Send the money. Send the job. Send the break. The words are earnest, familiar, the kind you repeat at midnight when hope feels like the only currency left. But beneath that plea lives another voice, smaller, sharper. It says, you don't deserve it. You'd only mess it up. You're not ready. It shows up as a memory of mistakes, a comparison to friends who seem to float toward opportunity, a childhood lesson that money is complicated or dangerous. The two voices live in the same body, one begging, one blocking. The result is an invisible tug-of-war that keeps every answer at arm's length. You can almost see the scene, a life of competence and care, of responsibilities met and dreams deferred. A person who has earned respect and yet sleeps with an ache, a constant asking that never quite transforms into receiving. That friction, I tell them gently when I sit across from them, is where the story really begins. Not because the universe is cruel, but because our inner signal must match the invitation we extend. Wanting is the call, being ready to receive is the rite of passage. Tonight there is a shift, the asking gets honest. What if I'm the one blocking this, they murmur. A small, careful curiosity replaces the frantic begging. In that pause, the possibility of a different conversation opens, one where worthiness, not want, becomes the magnet. If this moment lands with you, if you recognize the two voices in your own head, lean in. Tell me, softly, what is your biggest financial pain today? Stay with me, because next we'll meet the guide who shows how to move from pleading into a frequency that actually invites prosperity. The kitchen light is warm but small against the dark pouring rain outside. At the table, our hero leans over a stack of envelopes, bills, reminders, a brittle letter that smells faintly of old paper. Universe, please, they whisper, lips pressed together like a wound. The words leave their mouth full of need, urgent and hungry, but their hands tremble as if money itself might burn them. That contradiction is the scene, asking with one voice, denying with another. A small beep from the phone reminds them of last month's missed payment, and the whisper turns to shame. I shouldn't feel this way, they tell themselves, and somewhere inside, a child's voice answers, you don't deserve it. I sit beside them, not as a miracle maker but as a clear-eyed guide. You're calling, but your signal is split, I say, and they look up, startled. In that exchange the real problem surfaces. Wanting abundance isn't the same as being available to receive it. Wanting comes from lack, receiving requires a posture of worthiness. We watch the hero try to imagine a new bank balance, but each image is clipped by a reflexive sentence, I'll waste it, I'll become different, I'm not that person. Those sentences are not facts, they're ancient wiring. We work in small, practical moves. First, a breath practice, inhale worthiness as if it were oxygen, hold it like a secret, exhale the old stories. Then a question, not rhetorical, but sharp and kind, if money arrived today, what would you allow it to change about your life without guilt? The answer is telling. We craft a tiny ritual, place your palm on your chest, say, I am ready, and feel the muscles around the heart unclench. It's not fluff, it's recalibration of identity. In the dim kitchen light the hero repeats the phrase, voice firmer each time. The room shifts, subtle, but real. You might feel this tug too. If this scene lands with you, follow along, tap like and stay with me. Subscribe quietly and we'll keep going. Next, we will confront the 3 hidden beliefs that keep your door closed and begin to open it properly. The camera finds him at the kitchen table again, late light from a single lamp, a stack of envelopes like small paper mountains. He whispers to the universe, please, just one break, then leans back and rubs his temples as if smoothing a crease he can't see. Inside, another voice answers, who are you to receive this? You hear it too, soft, insistent, old as childhood lessons about money being scarce or earned through suffering. This is the moment the journey deepens. The call to change has been sounded, now he meets the part of himself that resists the answer. I sit beside him, not with judgment but with a steady question: when money arrives, how do you imagine taking it? He laughs nervously. I guess, scrambling? Hiding it? Earning it all over again to prove I deserved it. There it is, the split between wanting and being available. You can feel the tension in his shoulders, the way his chest tightens as if to block the very thing he asks for. The scene widens, flashbacks to parents arguing over bills, a teacher's remark about kids from their kind of neighborhood, the small, secret names he has for himself: unworthy, unlucky, late. We talk through the familiar scripts. I ask him to close his eyes and name the feeling that rises when he imagines a sudden influx of money. Panic. Relief? No, panic. He opens his eyes, surprised. I thought it would be joy, he admits. I didn't expect fear. This is the pivot. Desire without readiness becomes a misaligned signal. The universe replies to the vibration you emit, not the words you pray. So we begin practical inner work, simple, sovereign shifts: breathe into the body and soften the chest, say, aloud and with presence, I am capable of receiving. Reframe scarcity stories by writing one small truth each morning: I have worth. I can steward more than I think. Practice accepting a compliment without deflecting. These are not magic tricks, they are identity rewiring. He tries one now, placing a hand over his heart and allowing permission to arrive like a guest you don't have to apologize for. If this touches you, give it a quiet like and stay with the process. What is your biggest financial pain today? In the next part, we dismantle the 3 hidden beliefs that keep you in need and replace them with a new operating system for wealth. He sits at the kitchen table while the city lights blur through the window, a stack of envelopes catching the overhead lamp like small islands of worry. He says it out loud, a whisper at first, then firmer: I need this money. The words have weight. They press into the room and return to him heavier. Across from him, the guide leans forward, not judging, only curious. When you say in need, what image comes up? She asks. He closes his eyes and sees himself smaller, scrambling, the future a thin thread. I feel unprepared, he admits. Like I don't deserve it until I fix myself. The guide nods slowly, and the air shifts from accusation to invitation. She walks him through the small detective work: notice the phrases, the body posture that curls around lack, the shallow breath that says scarcity long before any bank balance changes. Together they map the invisible currency that runs the room, not dollars, but beliefs, and she asks him to try something brave. Replace I need with I am ready to receive. The first time he says it, his jaw tightens; the second time, his shoulders drop a fraction. The sentence lands differently, the frequency changes. They practice a tiny ritual, eyes open to the light, placing both palms over the heart, declaring 3 things he already provides for himself. He lists warmth, a persistent curiosity, and care for a sibling. Each declaration is met with a deeper breath, a loosening in the throat where shame had lodged. The guide coach's language shifts from scarcity verbs to ownership verbs. I deserve, I accept, I am available. She explains how the body listens to words and rearranges chemistry to match them. He tries a mirror exercise, speaking gentle acknowledgments to his reflection, and feels the first flicker of permission. Resistance crawls back, an old friend who warns against disappointment. They name it, seat it beside them, and then choose a practical step together: a 5-minute daily receiving practice, a 1-line reframe for any money thought, and a micro-action that proves capability: a call, a proposal, a small ask. He leaves the table carrying a different rhythm in his chest. Before the next step, she turns and asks quietly, what's your biggest financial pain today? If that question lands, stay with me. In the next moment we'll translate this new frequency into a simple, repeatable ritual that the universe can actually answer. The room is warm with lamplight and the quiet city hum beyond the window. He, call him Alex, sits hunched, a stack of unpaid bills catching the light like little confessions. His voice breaks when he says, I keep asking the universe, but nothing comes. I lean forward, voice calm, like a counselor who has seen this exact story 100 times and knows its turning points. Asking is the seed, I say. But what you feel when you ask is the soil. If the soil is rocky with shame and unworthiness, nothing will root. He tells me about sleepless nights, the small, secret shame of checking his balance and promising himself he won't fail again. I describe what that shame sounds like inside his body, a tightening in the throat, a sinking behind the sternum, a chorus of's not enough. Then I coach him through a simple experiment: breathe into that tight place, name the belief, I am not worthy, and watch how the label loses power when it is felt, not pushed away. He inhales, trembles, and the phrase dissolves from an accusation into something he can hold without melting. We talk identity. You are not a perpetual borrower from life, I tell him. You're not auditioning for an allowance from the world. Decide who receives with dignity. I ask him to try an identity shift aloud: I am someone who accepts prosperity. His voice is tentative at first, then steadier. The change is small and seismic, the same muscles used to clutch now open to receive. I give practical rituals: keep a short receipt journals of daily small receives, a compliment taken, a parking spot found, an unexpected $5 returned to your pocket, and celebrate them. Replace I need with I choose in your language for 24 hours and notice doors that stop slamming. Create a micro practice: sit with a cup of tea, place both hands over your heart, and silently say, I am ready, 3 times. It trains the nervous system to accept, not reject. His eyes soften. For the first time he imagines picking up a check without flinching. I pause and ask, gently, what's your biggest financial pain today? If that question lands, if this feels like the turn you needed, like this moment and stay, there's more coming. In the next scene we will test these shifts in the world outside this lamplit room, watching opportunity respond when the inner signal finally changes. The kitchen is warm with late afternoon light. The hero sits at the table, a small stack of bills and a coffee ring before them, hands clenched like they'd rather hold the problem than let it go. Across from them, I fold my hands like a counselor who has seen this exact ache 1,000 times. Tell me what you're afraid will happen if money shows up, I ask. It's a simple question, but it lands like a key in a lock. They laugh nervously. I'll have to change. I'll be exposed. What if I can't keep it? The words are honest, raw, a confession hidden behind the usual requests to the universe. I don't interrupt. Instead I point to a tiny exercise: breathe, name the fear, then imagine one small scene in which you accept help without apologizing. We do it together. Breath in, count to 4, breath out, release the word not enough. The muscles around their jaw loosen. The apartment seems to breathe back. I coach them through a shift not of strategy but of identity. You aren't asking the universe for a loan, I say softly. You're teaching yourself to be someone who can receive. We move from abstract to concrete. They pull a worn $5 bill from a drawer and place it in their wallet as a deliberate act of acceptance, an energetic placeholder that says, I am available. When the phone rings moments later with an offer for a small freelance job, their first instinct is to downplay it. I watch them take a breath and say, yes, thank you, out loud. The way they accept the call changes the tone of the conversation. The world responds. We practice 3 tiny rituals: receiving compliments without deflection, allowing help once a week, and naming one earned victory each night before sleep. Each ritual rewires the story in the body: scarcity relaxes, worthiness grows like a plant toward light. Tears come, not from defeat but relief, as old rules that governed them for decades loosen their grip. If this scene lands with you, notice where you stiffen when money is mentioned. What's your biggest financial pain today? If you want the next guided practice, a short, step-by-step shift you can do tomorrow morning, subscribe and we'll walk into the next moment of receiving together. He sits at the kitchen table while dawn slips through the blinds, an open laptop, bills like small mountains, and the old, familiar knot at the base of his throat. I come alongside him not with quick tricks, but with a steady voice that knows the landscape of fear. You keep asking the universe for money, I say, but every time an offer appears, you shrink from the space it would take. He laughs nervously. I don't know how to be rich, he admits, fingers tracing a coffee ring. The confession lands like a stone. It is not about numbers, it is about identity. We step into the memory together, a father who scolded splurges, a first paycheck that triggered shame, a childhood lesson that wealth equals danger. Those scenes are projected like film across his face. I point out the invisible scripts: not enough, unworthy, don't take more than your share. We name them aloud, giving shape to what once felt amorphous. As each label is spoken, the knot loosens. Naming fractures the spell. Then practical work begins. I guide him through a simple, intimate ritual, a 5-minute morning wallet check, not to count scarcity, but to state worth. He writes 3 lines on a small card: I am capable. I deserve ease. I receive with grace. He places it inside his wallet as if planting a seed. We rehearse a new inner dialogue for situations that used to trigger contraction: when a client proposes higher pay, when a surprise invoice arrives. Instead of panic, he practices: I can handle this. I am allowed to prosper. His voice grows steadier with each repetition. We also carve space for gratitude, not as denial, but as alignment. I ask him to catalogue one concrete thing he appreciates about money today: the warmth of fuel in winter, the neighbor's favor he could return. Gratitude becomes a lever, shifting the frequency from lack to acknowledgement. He begins to see scarcity as a temporary weather, not his identity. There are stumbles, old habits pull him back, but he learns to be curious rather than condemnatory. What do you fear will happen if you receive? I ask. He admits the deepest worry: losing himself. I answer softly: you won't be different, only more available to who you already are. If this resonates, what's your biggest financial pain today? Like this moment and stay with me and subscribe so we can keep aligning your signal. Next, we'll translate these inner shifts into clear, daily actions that attract real opportunities. He wakes before dawn, shoulders hunched over a chipped mug, bills spread like a map of what he fears. The kitchen light is soft, the city outside still sleeping, and in this small domestic theater the old stories: not enough, I'm late, I don't deserve, whisper like a radio stuck between stations. I sit across from him, not as a lecturer but as a steady voice: you've been asking, but you've been saying needy with every breath. Let's change the signal. We begin by changing the scene. He stands, palms warm, and I ask him to feel how his body carries the story of scarcity: folded chest, tense throat, hunched neck. He inhales and expands into an imagined tule of space around himself: no magic words, just permission to occupy more room. Worthiness isn't a wish, I say. It's a posture. He shifts his shoulders, and the simple act of opening his chest rewires a childhood echo that said smallness kept him safe. The work is practical and strangely intimate. We rehearse receiving like a conversation: when a thought of money arrives, he answers, thank you, I accept you, instead of bargaining. He practices holding a single coin and tracing the ridges with his thumb, feeling abundance as a tangible, respectful guest rather than an enemy to be chased. In the hallway mirror he speaks an identity line: soft, honest, I am someone who attracts and handles money with integrity. It sounds foreign the first time, then less so. Each repetition smooths the internal static. I ask him to name the belief that trips him: I must earn it all myself, he admits, and we turn it over like a stone to see what lies underneath: fear of failure, loyalty to past survival. We don't banish these truths, we acknowledge them, then reframe: survival once required scarcity, but thriving requires availability. Small daily rituals follow: a 2-minute receiving breath each morning, a nightly ledger of gratitude for what money did today, one intentional yes to a small purchase that honors his taste. These are experiments in becoming someone who expects good. If this landing with you, give it a small like and tell me, what's your biggest financial pain today? Stay with me here. Next, we'll test these new signals in the world and watch opportunities respond. He sits at the kitchen table while dawn slips through the blinds, a stack of envelopes like small, accusing moons. His voice is low when he speaks out loud, more to himself than to any sky: I need this to change. The guide sits across, calm, a warm mug steaming between them. Asking is the beginning, the guide says, but wanting without alignment is like tuning a radio and never turning the dial to the right station. The hero frowns, fingers tracing a coffee ring. So I've been wrong this whole time. Not wrong, the guide answers, coherent. They walk through a morning, breathe in, count to 4, breathe out, open the windows to let fresh air trade places with stale fear. The guide instructs him to find one small, undeniable fact, an unpaid invoice paid late but paid, a client who returned, a compliment that landed. They write those facts down in a tiny ledger, each entry a pebble that builds a bridge toward worthiness. You've been saying a need so often your posture folded into it, the guide says, helping him sit taller. We're not pretending the bills don't exist. We're changing the signal you're broadcasting while you meet them. The practice is simple, practical, almost cinematic, a morning mirror affirmation, soft, steady statements that replace a desperates with a deserving, a 5-minute rehearsal of receiving, imagine a check arriving, hear the ding of a bank notification, feel the relief in the belly, a minute each night to list 3 tiny victories, no matter how small. Emotion surfaces, skepticism, relief, a single trembling laugh when a remembered gratitude softens the chest. The guide gives a boundary lesson too. When an opportunity arrives that doesn't fit your new identity, say no. Saying no to misaligned offers makes room for what does align. They test it. A chime on his phone interrupts the ritual, an overdue deposit, a client finally honoring a commitment. He looks astonished, then vulnerable, as if learning to accept a gift for the first time. This is the turning point, the guide says gently. Not because the money proved you right, but because you practiced being worthy enough to receive it. He closes his eyes and repeats the mirror line, softer now, I am ready to receive. If this moment landed with you, tap like and tell me, what's your biggest financial pain today? Stay with me, in the final step we'll anchor these shifts into daily rituals that make receiving effortless and permanent. You stand at the kitchen window as the morning light eases across the counter, the same hands that used to clutch bills now wrapped around a warm mug. The world outside is ordinary, a neighbor jogging, a delivery truck humming, but inside something has shifted. Remember the person who once begged the universe for money with an undercurrent of doubt? They are the same person, but the inner conversation has changed. Instead of pleading, you whisper, I am ready, and that whisper vibrates differently. It softens the tension in your shoulders, steadies the breath, and opens a space where opportunities can find purchase. Across town, the hero receives an email, a freelance client wants to increase the contract, a long-ignored invoice finally gets paid, a quiet friend introduces a potential partner. Each external sign matters less than the felt sense that you can accept it. There is a short exchange, a hesitant laugh, a self-reminding nod, maybe a voice that says, I do deserve this, and that small dialogue rewrites the old script. You no longer sabotage with frantic asking, you align with a steady current of worthiness. That alignment is the prize you trained for, not magic that happens to you, but a willingness to receive what you actually want. This is where the journey settles into practice. Keep the simple rituals we spoke of, a morning declaration of deserving, a 2-minute release of scarcity thoughts, a small action that honors abundance, and treat each result as evidence, not the whole story. When fear resurfaces, welcome it like an old friend, listen, and then return to the quieter frequency. Over time, those tiny returns compound into a new identity, someone who calls wealth into life with calm expectation rather than frantic need. If this shifted something in you, let me know. A small like helps me keep creating guidance that meets you here. Tell me in the comments, what's your biggest financial pain today? If you want to keep walking this path together, subscribe. We'll meet again with more practices and real-life steps to make receiving effortless. When you step back into your day, carry this: abundance is not a favor to be begged for, it is a life you are learning to live.